Welcome. I'm Linda Lewis for We the People Congress. Thank you for joining me this evening on Reunite America. My guest speaker today travels to us from Douglas County, Parker, Colorado. He is Terry Dodd, the Colorado candidate for Continental Congress 2009. Welcome, Terry.
Well, thank you, Linda, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Well, I'm grateful that you're here today. We're hoping that you can give us a little bit more information on the Continental Congress, which is foreign to a lot of people still. Yes. We're drawing very close to the national election October 10th. And so I guess start off for us with what Continental Congress means to you, what you see it looking like in November.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to know what the Continental Congress is not, and that it is not a constitutional convention. A constitutional convention is where the states and federal government call a convention, and they actually have the ability to rewrite the Constitution. Well, a Continental Congress is just the opposite of that. We are trying to preserve and restore the Constitution and make our employees in Washington, D.C. live up to that employment agreement.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. So you're a candidate. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're from...
Originally, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I moved to Colorado in 1978.
Okay.
And been in Douglas County in the Parker area for the last 10 years.
Great.
I have 3 children. I'm married, my wife Wendy, and we have 1 grandson.
Wow, congratulations.
And I've been in the real estate brokerage, development, worked with custom builders. I've done a little bit of everything in the real estate business, but most of all, I'm a negotiator, I'm a communicator, and excellent. I help people to have a clear communication from one to the other. That's really what my job is. Helping other people solve problems really is what it's about.
Sure, that's excellent, and that would be very useful, beneficial at the Continental Congress, I'm assuming.
I believe it will. The first Continental Congress in 1774, where they came together and started looking at the grievances and how their rights were violated, they had a lot of trouble coming together on a plan that they all could agree
sure.
on. And I believe I can help facilitate coming to a solid strategic agreement.
Excellent. So you'd be the communicator in the group?
Yes, I would. People have a tendency, conflicts arise where communication is not clear and thorough.
Sure.
I believe the statistic, something like in 70% of the cases where there is a clear communication between 2 parties, most conflict goes away without any further action, just based on that clear communication. And I believe that I can help contribute to that and make the 2-week period be effective.
Well, that's excellent, because it is only 2 weeks after all,
yes.
to try and solve the problems of America.
To start with.
Sure, exactly. So you see this as a beginning, not an ending to where this journey will take us.
I believe that this may be the end of the beginning.
Okay.
I don't see it as the beginning of the end,
sure.
But I believe that the beginning of this is taking roots. I mean, if you look at what We the People Foundation have done, they've been petitioning this government for 10 or more grievances where they have specifically violated the Constitution, and they have formally petitioned the government on an official basis for the last 14 years. So this is certainly not the beginning.
Sure.
But it is a transition from this time period where we've been basically going through the petition process in accordance with the last 10 words of the First Amendment, which is the accountability clause, which allows us to have the right of petition. But this is the beginning of the enforcement phase. So it's getting away from that beginning of petition,
sure.
and getting to where we're now taking action, to where we can actually force them to do what they're supposed to have been doing all along, and that is protecting and securing our sovereign rights under the employment agreement. They are our employees. So it's time for us to hold them accountable.
As employers?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the solution, the enforcement of holding them accountable, mm-hmm. I know as a member of We the People, is peaceful, lawful, and so we followed the protocol up to this point, and this is where it has led us, is to the Continental Congress. Where do you see that taking us just after the Continental Congress? You say enforcing that. I guess what I'm asking is, what does enforcing that look like to you at this point? before the Continental Congress?
I struggle with this a little bit because it's difficult for me to paint a picture of what victory looks like in this. I really believe that God's going to determine that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I don't know how much time we've got, even on this earth.
Sure.
So I'm just looking at trying to protect and hold on to the republic that we have. We have abdicated a tremendous amount. Let me say this. Our governmental officials are not responsible for where we are.
Absolutely.
We are responsible for that because we've allowed them to silence our pulpits. We've allowed the government to take over our schools.
Absolutely.
We've allowed private banksters to control our politicians and our courts. We've allowed them to put corporate structures in place that have completely allowed them to circumvent our Constitution.
Sure.
So we've got quite an uphill battle to go. And the other thing that we've abdicated is our well-regulated state militia system.
Absolutely.
You realize that that was the only thing in the whole Constitution that has ever been stated to be necessary for a peaceful and secure state.
And we don't have
the president's not stated as being necessary, the Congress, the Supreme Court, none of those are stated as being necessary, only the well-regulated state militia. And I am all about peace, but I believe that peace comes through strength.
Sure.
And we've abdicated that strength. So now we're scrambling around, we're trying to get honest money legislation on the state level, we're trying to get our legislators to stand up for our state sovereignty.
Sure.
And we don't really have anything to back it up. So what's to keep them from declaring martial law at this point? I believe that, you know,